okay, nigga, what is it? But we like that shit.
You know what? I would love to. I love the history stuff, and I love you telling your story, especially since you were there back then. But take me back to Lonzo buying a record back in the day, back when you were a fan, before you even got in the business, even knew what the business was or anything. Were albums still released on Tuesdays back then? How much did a record cost? Did you have to hide certain records from your parents like we did back in the 90s? Talk to me about you being a fan and buying a record. What albums were you looking out for?
When I first started, before I started DJing, I was a big music fan. I had a car, 8-track player, and music was expensive. I mean, an 8-track cost you back then about $7, man. $7 for a whole 8-track album. And we go to the swap meet, and the other store, there was another store, the swap meet and the store. Steve Yano, I didn't know Steve then, but I would go buy his shit. He had the super bootleg collection, and you go down there, you can buy 2 for $5, 3 for $5, something like that, depending on what it was. And my girl over at not VIP, but Allen Ed's in Compton, she had the great bootleg collection. So you go in and buy Dramatics, all that shit. And for $10, man, you might get 4 or 5 bootlegs. That's bootlegging when cassettes and 8-tracks were the first bootlegs I remember buying. They sound great, especially when they had no money. Your stereo wasn't shit no way. It wasn't but 2 speakers in the whole damn car. They was probably sitting behind you. So I remember we bought the That Nigga's Crazy album by Richard Pryor. And we couldn't, because you could not buy it in the store. I was about 16 when it came out. Couldn't buy it in the store. You had to go get a wino to buy it for you. That's no bullshit. Because they would not sell you a Richard Pryor album. They had back then, Richard Pryor, all the so-called party records was behind a curtain in the store, and kids couldn't go back there.
Like porn was back in the day.
Like porn was. It was like porno. No bullshit. Because Dolomite had porno-looking album covers. He had a chick on the album cover, butt-ass naked, eating ice cream sundae. Okay, like it wasn't shit. Eating some. I'm not bullshitting. Dolomite had some wild-ass album covers. And so it had a little thing back there, nobody under 18. But here's the crazy part. You couldn't be under 8. You couldn't be under 18 and go back there. They sell your ass bootleg if you was under 18. They didn't give a damn about them. They was trying to move them. And that was a time, man, when music was a lot different. And you didn't buy music that you go to the record store back then, it'd have a sheet of all the singles. Okay. You might not have heard this shit. You just knew I like Ohio Players. I want Dramatics. I want Temptations. I want this one. And you might not even heard it. And then you could ask the DJ to play it in the store. And sometimes they would play it. Or sometimes you going to buy one thing, DJ plays something in the store. What's that? Oh, give me that. Then you look at 45. I think that was like $1 something. You can buy 45. I never really bought 45 that much because I didn't have no record player in my car. And I showed you that video, that thing of the day. That I showed you that picture of Muhammad Ali with a record player in his car. Okay. But yeah, I always had an 8-track. I started off with 4 tracks, moved to 8-track. And I think when I start DJing, I would buy records, and even then, I think a album would be like $6.99, something like $7.99, depending on what it was. And I was so glad when they came out with 12 inches, because 12 inches you could buy 12 inches for $5. Because usually, depending on what it was, you wasn't playing all the albums. And then I didn't realize that the grooves on a 12-inch are cut deeper than an album. Okay? The grooves on a 12-inch are cut deeper than the grooves on the album. And there's a slight sound difference, especially in the bass and some of the clarity, because you got a whole lot more area for your needle to rock in. But yeah, man, the only thing I remember hiding as a kid was Richard Pryor, That Nigga's Crazy album. Me and my partner.
And correct me if I'm wrong, he spelled the N-word with the ER back then. It wasn't nigga, it was ER, right?
ER, yeah.
He had bicentennial nigga, and so yeah, there was no nigga is a new kind of a quote unquote new term. It was, they call each other nigger with the ER.
That's a new nig word. Okay. And I remember me and my partner, he had an old Buick with a bad battery, and we had to go in the garage and close the garage door down to listen to That Nigga's Crazy. And we had to crank the car up every once in a while to keep the battery from dying. And we let the car run too long, garage doors closed, and we started coughing. We literally are dying, choking to death, laughing. First we laughing, and we laughing so hard, we start coughing. And we just figured we was laughing so hard, that's why we was coughing. And didn't realize we was dying from carbon monoxide poison inside this nigga's little ass garage. No bullshit.
That's hilarious, bro. Love that story. You know, speaking of albums, Lonzo, back then the album art was just as, if not more important than the LP. Am I correct in saying that?
Man, the Ohio Players albums were just the shit. They put a naked woman on the front, have her dripped in honey, a snake, whatever the case. Beautiful black women, bald-headed chicks. Who had a bald head back in the 70s? Bald-head, fine, bald-headed sister from the 70s.
Grace Jones?
That's the only one.
Yeah.
The Ohio Players album covers were notorious for that shit.
Mm-hmm.
George Clinton had the most intricate artwork. You can read a George Clinton album cover and never see the same thing twice. You see shit you never saw before. If you grab one right today, I didn't know that was it. That shit, I don't know who drew that shit, but it took them months to do that shit. He'd have all kind of little backwards ass words and little shit. It just, especially when he got into his hyperspace shit, man. It just was dope. It just was some of the dopest shit I've ever experienced in my life. And then you read the album, then you read the liner notes and the album covers. Okay, you take the album out of the sleeve, and sometimes they put the album cover, the liner notes, who sang what, studios, all that shit in there. You don't get that information no more, man.
Someone said the Lakeside album covers also. Earth, Wind, and Fire. Yeah.
Oh man, Lakeside had them cartoon album covers. Somebody would draw their shit with all the Lakeside guys, band members, in different various whatever theme that album was. If it was Fantastic Warriors, they was pirates. Other time they were bank robbers or whatever the case may be. Earth, Wind, and Fire was always some real majestic shit, man, with big ass suns and birds and shit like that. It was just some dope shit, man. It was a different era, man. I miss it, dude. We was talking about that the other day. I think I mentioned this last time. Me and Cletus and Kelvin was sitting there talking about how much we missed the record business, man, the record industry. It was so much fun back then, especially for a guy like me who likes to work with his hands and do shit. I take shit, from taking something from a concept to an actual product and then have somebody buy it from you. Oh my God. Put cash in your pocket, and then while you leaving, your beeper going off to go drop off some more is better than dope. And that's why so many cats got into it, because the music business was better than dope back then. If you had a hot song, dude, you had the sack. You had the sack for at least 6 weeks. Okay, you had the sack for at least 6 weeks. 6 weeks, and it took you that long to service everybody. For 6 weeks, your shit was usually hot as fuck to somebody knocked you off, or you just saturated your market already. Okay. And that was the beauty of it. And even then, you still will sell what they call catalog. Catalog means that shit you had for a while, the shit you came out with 6 weeks ago, somebody want to buy it. I need a box of them because people still buy it. You ain't selling 200 or 300 a day like you was, but you might sell 50 a month.
Let me ask you, that reminds me from real quick, because I know we only got like 5 minutes, but I love this type of shit, so I got to get this question in here. Back in the day, we used to buy those tapes or those CDs. Remember you see in the magazines, and you could buy like 15 cassettes for exactly. What's the deal behind that? Can you break that down a little bit? And how does that work from a person on your end who sells records? Like, do you get paid for that? Like, talk about that whole process. Because I think I still owe those motherfuckers money.
Most of those products you got was called cutouts. every record contract has a clause in it that allows you to do what they call free goods. Free goods are free records that they give away to promote your product. Okay, and then if you probably when you got them, there was probably a little slit in the cassette case or the album or the CD case. That means you couldn't return them to the record stores. Okay, if there's a little slit in them, if you ever bought an old CD and see somebody took a saw and just cut a line in the case, that means it's non-returnable. And again, like I said before, people would give that stuff away to promote the record. It was basically promotion for the record. And that's why they could sell it so cheap. And they didn't expect to get paid. Some people paid them though. Some people paid, and it was also a loss leader for a subscription. Okay, so it was all, and that shit was big money back in the day, man. A lot of people also all they bought their records from. They would just buy order from that shit if nothing else. They just buy from that catalog situation, and that's how they did their shit.
I just remember I couldn't find shit that I liked. Like I was like, I can't find a goddamn thing, so I'm good. Like, so they picked lesser known music, or how did that work? Like
they may throw a couple of numbers that you recognize that you want in there, but you was getting like 10 for a penny or a dollar or something like some more crazy ass thing. So they couldn't sell them no way. So you just got a fat ass collection. You just clean out warehouses and they get money for the shit. They're gonna write it off anyway. It's promotion. I was with Calvin Anderson the other day, and Calvin got so many records and CDs and cassettes in his damn store. It's ridiculous. And if somebody say, man, I give you 50 cents a piece for him, he'd probably take them. Okay, he'd probably take them. Back in the day, in the record industry, a record store would make more money returning records to the manufacturer than they would in some cases selling them. That was because the record business is 100%. Record business is 100% returns. What I mean by that is, if I don't sell it, I'm gonna give it back to you, and I get full credit. So sometimes people would get hold of records from different sources and take them to a record store and sell them for, I don't know if the record's going for $10, especially CDs. Oh my God, CD. That's UCD. CDs sold for $10 all day long. If I had a source that would, whether it could be a plant manager or it could be a store, somebody they got free goods, whatever the case may be, and they gave them to me, or I got them for $5 a piece, I can sell them to somebody for $6 and they return them for 10 and get full credit for them, make money, or just trade it for more product. They buy more records with old records. Okay, and then when you got slick. Even if it was non-returnable, they never cut the CD. So a lot of times you just change the jacket out, and we had heat shrink machines, all kind of shit. The game was notorious, dude. The game was notorious. It was no joke. Oh, you was gonna get paid, but you had physical product to put your hands on. You didn't have a file that somebody can just click and download and pass around like a bad joint. So that's what's happening with that, man. We got time to go, man. Damn.
Yeah. I love that shit, man. I love that. What's coming up on Thursday, man?
Me and Dre be back in the saddle on Thursday. I was at USC last Thursday, and he got sick on Friday, so we didn't do a show last week. But we'll be back in the big way on Thursday, folks, for Legendary Connects. Don't forget about us now. Legendary Connects Thursday with me and Dre, folks. Much love to everybody.
Miss B. Peace.
Miss B in the house. That's right, folks. Thanks for everybody for dropping through with us, hanging out with us, folks. I much appreciate it. Everybody that drops up in the chat room, much love to you. Thank you for watching, and please share the show, folks. Dusty, we're out of here. Out of here like last year's calendar, baby. Peace.